So here I have the picture, and if you can tell, obviously my arm is hanging down. This is my left arm that got partially ripped off. This is my knee, and then this part where it's bent is where my femur was busted in half, and this is my right leg and my right arm.
Hi, my name's Kennedy, and I survived a car accident. So my junior year is when the car accident happened, and 2 days prior to the car accident, me and my boyfriend had broken up at the time. So it was kind of an emotional mess, and so my two friends, they came over and they wanted to cheer me up. So they were like, let's go watch the sunset at the D. And we have a big mountain that's 3 or 4 miles down the road, and you just go to the base of it and you could see the best sunsets. And then from there, Jacob's mom calls and she's like, Jacob, you need to be home by 9. And we were like, what the heck? Okay. So we start heading back to my house because Jacob's car was at my house. And so on the way from the base of the D to my house, it's a straight shot road. Like, there's just like 3 stop signs, I think. The roads back here are really narrow, and if you start to go off the road, you kind of slip deep, kind of pulls you in because like there's just no barrier or anything. And so I was driving and I started crying again. I remember it was obviously because I got broken up with or whatever, and I started going off the left side of the road and I overcorrected, and I started going off the right side of the road because I overcorrected too far. There was a little bump in the dirt on the side of the road, and so my car kind of caught air, and the left side of my car took out the right chunk of the power pole, and it flipped us sideways, and we started flipping and rolling over and over and over, but the pole that we hit ended up staying standing. And that's kind of important because I hit this pole, and then the next pole, I was hanging in between those poles, so if the one pole fell, I would have fell to the ground too. And the car rolled past the second pole. It was like 50 feet out this way, and I got ejected into the power line, and I was hanging by my broken femur for almost an hour. They think I got catapulted all the way up there because of the momentum of the car, because I was going the speed limit. I was going 58 miles an hour. It was just, as you're flipping and rolling, you gain more, and so that's just what happened, I guess. I remember being super high in the air, upside down, and it was really dark, and I remember feeling really alone, and I was just confused on where I was, what was happening. But then I remember like blood running down my face and like almost drowning me in a way, and so I was scared. And then I remember everyone was underneath me. I was just really confused on why no one was helping me. Like, they were just all looking at me like, are you guys gonna help me? And they were like, yeah, we're coming, we got it, we're waiting for a truck. And so I was like, okay, whatever, like still not really knowing what's happening. And then it kind of flicks up to where he's in my face putting the tourniquet on me, and I remember looking at him, and at this point we're like hitting an hour, and I'm lost so much blood. I'm tired of fighting. I can't do it anymore. And he's putting the tourniquet on me, and he's like stressed out because he's got to figure out how to get me off this wire. And I remember looking at him and I said, you've got to get me down. And he said, I know, we're trying, like we're so close, just hang on. And I said, no, I'm serious, I can't hold on much longer, even though I had no choice. And he got me down, and I remember just looking at all of them like, thank you so much for help trying to save my life, but like I think this is my time to go. And so I kind of had given up at that point because I was fighting for so long, like I had nothing in me anymore. And then I remember getting put in the ambulance and just laying there, and I was kind of like relaxed at that point because I just knew it was my time to go. Obviously it wasn't, but that's how I felt. So my two friends, obviously none of us had our seatbelts on, so we all got ejected out, and she was the next one out, and she broke her neck, her back, and her pelvis. So I broke quite a few of her bones. And then Jacob, he was in the back seat, and he was the last one out, and I broke his neck and his pelvis. So all my injuries, I had a broken collarbone, a broken humerus, I broke my femur, but that's where they amputated it. And then I also had I have a brachial plexus injury, and not, when I say that, a lot of people don't really understand what it is, which I wouldn't either. But so you have 5 main nerves that run your arm, and so 5 of mine were all injured, but 3 were pulled out from this root of my spine, and 2 were stretched really far. And so that left me with my arm pretty much paralyzed. And for the longest time, all I could do is barely move my fingers. I'm still really affected by it today. because my arm still doesn't work like it's supposed to. I think I went under 8 surgeries in the span of like 12 hours. And I just remember waking up and it was like I was in a ton of pain. I didn't know my injuries because no one like wanted to break it to me that I had to lose a leg, but I knew something was severely wrong. I was in a coma for a few days. I don't really know exactly how long, like a medically induced coma. I remember waking up and they gave me a few days before I think they told me. It all is kind of like a blur now because it's been a year, but I was still in pretty bad shape and my dad came in and I could just tell the room was like very gloomy and like there was something seriously wrong. And my dad sat next to me and he said, "Kennedy, they had to take your leg." And I said, "Oh, did Jacob or Nakaya lose a limb?" Because obviously I'm still on a lot of medication. Doesn't mean just because I lost a limb, everyone lost a limb, but I was just worried that like they didn't have to sustain any like long-term injuries. And he said, "No, they didn't." And I said, "So I'm the only one?" He goes, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, I'm glad I'm the one that had to lose a limb because it was my fault." And so then I kind of turned my head away because I wanted to kind of be alone, because in that moment to hear that as a 16-year-old girl that your whole life is going to be different is something that's super hard to hear. And so I was okay with it, even though at the same time in the back of my head I was like, I think it's still there because I can feel it. Because like I was like, you think the pain is all gone. It wasn't gone. And so like at that point I was really delusional and I could still like see my leg. I described all the scars, like the scratches, what my toes looked like. It was insane. Like obviously I knew it wasn't really there, but my mind like could still see it. Leaving the hospital, I was so excited because I was there for 7 weeks. It was so long. But when I left, it was difficult because in the hospital, they teach you to do things on your own, but at the same time, you have so much help. And even though when I came home, like I had a lot of help, but I remember sometimes I'd sit there and I would be like, I can't do this. This is hard. I'm not going to be able to do these things anymore. I remember watching the neighbor kids run around together, and that like broke my heart because I was like, I'm never going to be able to do that again. And like, I think that was my first mental breakdown out of the whole thing. But I just realized how hard life was going to be from there on. My family handled everything pretty well. I think the reason they handled everything pretty well is because I handled it pretty well. And I still to this day don't know why I handled it so well that I did. Going into my senior year, I had all summer to recover. It was so scary, and I was so scared because I was in a wheelchair because I can't be on crutches because of my left arm. All these years, I never thought I'd be going in my senior year in a wheelchair looking the way I did. And so it was really hard on my self-esteem, but everyone at school was really good. And then it was also hard to watch my team play soccer without me. So it was just, life was hard. And then once I got my prosthetic leg, I went to all the activities. I still did in my wheelchair. It was just different. I went to prom. I had fun. I just made the best out of it with what I could and had fun with it. So life now, I graduated high school a few months ago and now I'm moving out to go to college. My one goal that I want to do so bad is go to the Paralympics. I don't know what I would go for. I'm thinking running because I'm actually working on a running blade right now. I get casted for it tomorrow. I'd also like to do skiing in the Paralympics maybe. I haven't really decided on that one. That's one of my goals. And then I want to get a degree in business just in case. And then I'd like to continue social media because I've had fun doing it. I think it's important to share my story on social media because most of the time someone needs someone to give them motivation or inspiration. And I know I have those people for me that I'm like, oh, look, they can do it. I can do it. And I want to be that person for someone, and being that person has been awesome. And like, I like finding humor in it, and people seem to absolutely love it. And if it like brightens up their day for my trauma, whatever, like have at it. I think it's funny. You can think it's funny too. I think the reason I stay so positive is because before my accident, I was severely depressed. I wasn't planning on going into my senior year because I was not planning to live because I didn't want to anymore. And I kind of gave up on everything. And so going through something like that and seeing how fast life can change and like how life is actually so worth living for made me just see the positives and be like, I think I was a little lost back then, and now I don't think I'm lost anymore. My name is Kennedy. Thanks for listening to my story, and I hope I can motivate you some way.